Hello, it is a pleasure, a privilege, and an honour to be here to host you today. Welcome to the satsang. Um, I know quite a lot of people that have been before, so you bear with me if I'm going to explain to many new people that are here today kind of what goes on. Satsang is a Sanskrit word meaning that we sit together in our truth, in authenticity, naked as it were, without the usual kind of array of artifice and pretense and parading and impressing all the stuff we usually instinctively do as herd animals. We have this privilege because of the technology and I guess the evolution of human consciousness in general to sit together all the way around the world and commune. And that's my role, is to somehow conduct a state of communing as informally and in an enjoyable, uncreepy way as possible. It's something I've been doing for, well, too long. I should know better by now. I mean, I've been doing it for, oh no, that's the phone ringing. We'll put pace to that very quickly, don't you worry. But I'm going to put pace to that very quickly. See, I'm at the hideout. Check your skills hideout. And I'm not totally in control of all the sounds, but that's been taken care of. Okay, here we're back to the flow. I've been doing this for like 40 odd years, one way or another, the online thing for the last 15 or so. And I love it. I don't know what I'm going to say. I have no idea. I just kind of groove into the theme and it just evolves. I need a 20 minutes or so to just set the stall up, so to speak, so that we know what we're on about here. Give you the template from which I'm talking, which is all Taoist based, ancient Chinese Taoist, but made contemporary, because that's what I do, contemporize Taoism, as it were, to make it accessible for everybody, because it's brilliant stuff. I mean, I've explored all the different disciplines, all of them, but a lot of just different disciplines. I was very well trained over a period of about 15 years by some incredible teachers, and I've been all over the world and studied all kinds of stuff, but I've never found anything as succinct and clean and free of dogma and belief and the need for faith as Taoism. It's just very, very simple, pragmatic, beautiful way of conducting yourself internally and therefore externally, because what's going on inside will be reflected naturally by how you are externally. And the theme of today is love, and specifically your love life, relationships and so on. This happened because in the series of love satsangs we did recently, the one about this, the sound was all messed up, so we were going to do it again anyway. I thought, why not just open it up to everybody and make it a beautiful thing? I mean, everybody's fascinated by love life, for sure. I will give you the rationale for that one. I'm not as an expert on relationships, to the contrary. I mean, maybe in terms of the number of them that have been and gone, i.e., sustaining one isn't my forte, or hasn't been so far. But I've worked with countless people. I've done about 1 million one-to-one sessions in my life, and a lot of people's problems derive from their unsatisfying love life. So I've heard a lot of stories in my time, and I find the subject utterly fascinating. Being 60 years old, I kind of reached a stage where my own testosterone levels have thankfully started declining, leaving me much clearer minded, and therefore the whole issue of finding the one, seeking that amazing thing that we all want in that, has subsided enough to be able to see this ancient Taoist view and realise, well, they were right, these guys, they're very, very clever people, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But first, just let me tell you that we sit here in huge numbers from, I'm not very good at counting, I might be 31 countries. Just let me tell you where we all are, because it will give you a sense of what's going on here. Hong Kong, Canada, Ireland, Israel, UK, United States, Australia, Austria, Indonesia, France, Aruba, Germany, Spain, Slovenia, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Luxembourg, Mexico, Uzbekistan, Switzerland, Italy, China, Singapore, Portugal, South Africa, Malta, Greece, Antigua and Barbuda, India, American Samoa, United Arab Emirates, Poland, and Belgium. What do you think of that? That is pretty far out, isn't it? So here we are, pretty much in every time zone on the planet. And the very idea of it makes that tingling sensation happen in my face. Now, I was telling you about Taoism. Basically what Taoism is a series of principles, fundamental, immutable principles. That's what they've managed to do, was get to the nub of all aspects of experience. And if you can correct the nub, or if you like, the hub of the wheel, the circumference of the wheel, the external reality, seems to take care of itself. You can't smooth out the circumference of a wheel that's all buckled if the hub of the wheel is all buckled as well. So what they're focused on is getting the hub of the wheel of your being to be perfectly round and beautiful. And there are a series, as I say, of these principles, perhaps the most powerful and the most important, probably, although it's very hard to say which is the most important because they all link together, but it's this one. And this is the basis of where all the power you'll ever need derives. All the succor that your soul ever craves derives from here. All craving for whatever it is externally that you think is going to bring you joy, satisfaction, and bliss, but which will also, obviously, if it does, bring you the opposite of that, because everything in the manifest world has its two sides. All of this, the thing that we crave, which is that feeling, oh, this is beautiful being alive. I love being alive. I love this feeling. I love being here. And not in a clinging way that you're afraid to die, but that you feel so good being here that it would be all right if you died. It wouldn't matter because you're complete. And it also, what derives from this technique I'm about to tell you, is the understanding, a clear knowing, in fact, in your body, that when the body drops away, there is not any dissolution of the being, not in the deepest fundamental sense. The personality will disappear along with the body. The memories will disappear along with the body, presumably anyway. All the considerations about how important you are and how popular you are you being included, do you belong, do they like you, and all of that stuff, that all falls away. In other words, all the bonfire of the vanity stuff, the things that we generally invest most of our energy in, looking good in the eyes of the world so that we fit in, belong, and get banished from the tribe, etc. All of that falls away. But the deep part of you, the witness bearer, that part of you that is here, always has been here, always is going to be here, regardless of which body you happen to be inhabiting at the time, that part of you is just bearing witness, and it continues to do that after the body falls away. Now, I can't prove that to you, of course not, but the sense is of that, and it's not a faith thing. It's not about the life after death and thinking it will be fine then, because I haven't got a clue what happens after. It could be absolutely nothing, and it doesn't matter. That's the beauty of this system. You get to that point when it doesn't matter, and then you're really free to live and to love fully. Now, this technique of techniques is as follows. The part of you that is concerned with your status, with being treated fairly by others, with not getting ripped off, with not looking daft, with not getting humiliated, with not being banished from the crowd, the part of you that craves the wealth and the balance in your everyday life and everything that you concern yourself with, or we all concern ourselves with most of the time, goes on in the front of your body. The emotions that you have about the way things are going, you have a couple of things go wrong and you think it's an awful day, and that feeling, that goes on in the front of the body. The way you describe your reality to yourself, which is really all we can do, is describe it to ourselves. We can't actually directly experience it as it is. As you know, your sense organs, for example, your eyes, they take in the view that's upside down and turn it around for you. The brain synthesizes some kind of facsimile of the impression that your eyes are receiving, which, bear in mind, is merely lots of protons coming in, and turns that into a picture. It's all about synthesis. And so what we're doing is we're describing the world that we think we live in to ourselves all the time. And we uphold that description by an ongoing debate or discussion with ourselves in the front of the brain. The feelings, as I say, that are elicited by what we're perceiving happening and how well or badly we judge ourselves to be doing, in relation to what we're describing to ourselves as reality. Those emotions occur in the front, in the solar plexus. And the reason this all goes on in the front is because our sense organs face forwards. Well, actually, no, this isn't the reason, just that is as it is. But the next bit, the sense organs face forwards, the eyes, the ears, nose, and mouth, etc. So we perceive reality as in front of us, even though we know it's behind us, to the sides, above, and below as well. We perceive it in front of us. And because it's compelling, fascinating, riveting, exacting, challenging, and all the exciting, and all the rest of it, it draws us forwards inside our bodies. And we sit in the front of the body, and we get addicted to that. We don't even realise we've done it. It happens presumably around about 4 or 5 years old, when we're having to engage properly at school for the first time, and we have to perform according to somebody else's system, and we have to compete with the other kids in the class and all the rest of it. We come forwards in the body and kind of get stuck there. And we lose the very ground of our being, because the witness bearer, that immortal aspect of the self, if you will, the background presence, sits literally in the back of us. That's where it watches from. It watches from the rear part of the brain, which is the part of the brain that is least explored, and yet which is the part of the brain that supplies your intuitive power, your psychic ability, what we would call the superpowers, all derived from the rear brain. And many wise evolutionists suggest that the next phase of human evolution is already occurring by the rear brain developing. And so the witness bearer sits in the back of the brain, not in the front. The physical presence of the witness bearer is in the back of you. It has to be in the back because the back is still and silent and strong, sturdy relative to the front, which is vulnerable and relatively weak and noisy with all of that activity I was describing, as well as the physical noise of the belly working and the heart, the lungs, and all the rest of it. And what we do, this technique, is we learn to come into our backs instead of being in the front, or rather as well as being in the front. See, when you're in the front, all you have is the front. When you're in the back, you have all of it. You're in the back, you're in command of what goes on in the front. If you look at, if you have, you're a don, you're the don, you sit at the back of the restaurant with your back to the wall, so you've got full command of the space. You don't sit anywhere near the door, because it could be dangerous. You know, talking about if you're in an organised crime family, you would sit at the back to maintain command of the room. The technique is used, and it's fundamental to the Taoist boxing forms, Tai Chi, Xing Bagua, Crane, and others. It's common to them all that you punch and kick and block and do whatever you do from the back of you, because you've got your full body weight behind it, and therefore don't need to rely on physical strength. It's purely mechanical. But more than that, and I've experienced this myself, when you learn to sit in your back, no matter how extreme the challenge is facing you, and the fight is as extreme as it gets, really, you might feel fear in the front of the body, and I have done myself, but it's not who you are. You're not afraid anymore. There is just fear. And it's interesting. Oh, how curious. It doesn't stop you being affected at all. Whereas if you were in the front of your body and you were therefore completely absorbed in the drama of the fight, you become the fear, and there is fear for sure, because there will be, or anger covering the fear over, neither of which is a desirable state to be in when you're trying to do something important like neutralize danger. You become that. You become. I'm afraid. I'm angry. I'm this. I'm that. And if you then extrapolate from this, or expand the idea into your everyday life, when you're in the front of the body, you are caught up in that whole drama of the feelings that you're feeling, the conflicts that you've got going on, that discussion you've got in the brain, but with the angel and the devil, or whichever, the devil's advocate and the other voice, or this voice, or that voice, and the tumult which is occurring constantly in the forebrain. You become that. You are that. You associate and identify yourself, in other words, with the external. And it's not even actually the external, it's just your perception of it. Whereas if you can learn to sit in your back, there's no longer the need to make everything fit together and be neat and tidy, or to get restitution on something that was wronged, or whatever it is. You just sit and you observe everything. I was going to say dispassionately. It's not without compassion, to the contrary. You feel it all with warmth. You're observing it all with warmth and love from the back of you. But you no longer are subject to the play of preferences. Oh, it must be this way and not that way. Oh, oh no, it's going to go that way. Oh no, it needs to go this way. All of that stress is dropped. Not because you're making it drop, it's because it isn't really real in the first place. And when you sit in your back, there is reality. And you're in command of what's going on in front. And then if fear arises, oh, there is fear. If envy arises, oh, there is envy. If desire arises, ah, there is desire. Now, this is something that you learn to do over a period of time. We're going to do it in the meditation section. You don't get it all at once. In fact, even if you've been practicing it for years and years, you still oscillate between the forwards and backwards position between the sort of disempowered, running about like a headless chicken state in the front, or the deep Buddha-like state in the back. You're meant to oscillate between the two even, but what happens is the more that you become aware of the option, the more you exercise it only for seconds at a time, the more quickly it strangely becomes the default position. So you tend to notice it when you're stuck in the front rather than the other way around. It becomes the exception. I need to warn you, I can tell already, this is likely to go on for slightly longer than an hour, this session, because there's a lot of people, there's a huge amount of questions, which I'll ask you, there's no way we're going to be able to get through all of them, but I'd like to get through as many as possible. And it's a beautiful subject, this. What is love? Let's just start off with that. Stripped of all sentiment and all the plugins, all the stories, as it were, that we put around love. Love is the life force, the chi, the prana, expressing itself through the heart center. In other words, the middle of the chest area. It's really, really that simple. Now, most of the time, we guard our chest. We hold the chest area tight. This comes from the pain of childhood, of being betrayed, being let down, disappointed by others, lied to, cheated on, whatever it is. And the pain of that and the fear of it happening again causes the heart, reflexively, not the heart, but the chest area, to tighten up subtly. And then every time that same stimulus is repeated by somebody disappointing or whatever, the effect is compounded, so that by the time you reach adulthood, the chances are that in an energetic sense at least, you're fairly calcified there. So you're guarded from feeling too much. And that blocks the love flowing. Now that love that comes, that energy, that life force that comes through the chest when you relax it, contains or is imbued with the beauty of your soul. And when I say that, I mean when you were born, when you were a newborn baby, your mother, your father, whoever was in the room, because if you've ever been at a birth, you'll know what I mean. They'll have gone, oh, he's gorgeous, oh, she's so beautiful, oh, and they pick you up and they hold you, they love you. And that unique, gorgeous beauty of your soul is what imbues the energy coming out of your chest area. That's, if you like, love. So it goes beyond preferences. It's not about liking or not liking someone or something, because you can totally love someone, somewhere, something, and not like them all the time or some of the time, or not like the way they're acting out. I grew up in London, for example. For the last 15 years or so, I've not lived there, lived all over the world, but I was always really addicted to London, and if I was in England, I had to get back there every night. It would creep me out. I no longer have that addiction. I need nature around me now a lot more. And I love London. I love it. And I go there often, in and out as fast as possible. I don't like being there. I don't like the pollution, the noise, the smell, the busyness. It's not horrible. It's fun, but it's not necessarily likable to me. But I love it. And it's the same with friends, very close friends, say. I totally love my friends. I'm blessed to have many, many good friends. I don't always like them as much as they don't always like me. That is how it is. And it's the same, even more extremely and intensely, when it's a one-to-one love relationship, a love affair, a partnership, or whatever. You must know that. You really can love somebody deeply, deeply. You don't like them sometimes. That's another issue, the liking or the not liking. That's stuff that goes on in the front of the body. The love issues forth from the back of you, from the eternal part of you, the witness bearer. And that love embraces the other's presence, background presence, their witness bearer. And that is love. That is where the love connection really happens. Now, what happens is, if we can be together with someone and be loving them from the presence in our back through the heart, loving their presence, and that will naturally encourage them to do likewise. The noise of the personalities falls away, and the chances are that there then can be some beautiful shared mutual rapture. But let me kind of talk about this in some depth anyway. Relationships. Relationships are a myth. They don't exist at all. We just imagine them. They are really, the word itself is a shorthand description of a process of relating. The relationship, the noun, is imaginary, as in fact fundamentally all nouns. Nouns are merely a description, a shorthand description for a process. The chair that you're sitting on, for example, it seems like an entity, but in fact it's a process. If you could go inside a molecular level, you would see that the chair is transforming, submitting or surrendering to entropy. And at a certain point in time, will no longer be a chair at all. It will just be dust for one reason or another. And this same thing holds true for everything without exception that is in this world of matter, including people. Everything is a process. So there is no relationship. There is really just a process. And this process has happened until now with somebody. So if you're with somebody, say you've been with them for 2 years or 20 years, you can definitely say validly that there has been this process up until now. And you can say that your intention is that this process will continue for as long as it possibly can. But we then talk about this relationship, this imaginary relationship, which, bear in mind, will be totally different for each person, even though they both think it's the same. It has to be, doesn't it? Because all our imaginations and angles are different. This relationship is projected by each party into a mythical present tense. So our relationship is like this. We love each other, but we find it difficult to do this or that. The sex is great, but sometimes it's a bit boring or whatever. That sounds perfectly feasible and plausible. In fact, that's imaginary. Because when is that happening? It isn't. It has happened until now. So what we do, and we do this with all aspects of life, we create a myth, we perpetrate a myth, and we perpetuate a myth by taking what has been, saying that that is now happening, even though it's not, because we're actually sitting here talking and not doing that stuff. And we say that because that makes it go on and on and on forever like that in this mythical present tense. Much clearer it could be if we were to go, yeah, well, up until now it's been like this, and I'd like it to be like this or a bit different or whatever in the future. That would be clearer. But the it itself is imaginary, isn't it? There isn't an it. The process has been this way. This is how we have related. Now, you might think, so what's all this got to do with it? But when we can sit in the presence of ourselves, in the back of ourselves, and we have this psycholinguistic clarity about what's going on with each other, assuming that both parties are fairly matched on a kind of level of clarity of consciousness and honesty about themselves, and able to sit in the back and be present, i.e. be the presence, the possibilities for the sharing of mutual rapture and bliss are much higher than when we're caught up in the front part with all the theatre and the drama and all the rest of it. Now, the falling in love thing is really fascinating because we call it falling because you're falling prey to a delusion. I mean, truly, don't get me wrong, it happens to me all the time. I've got it down to an art now. I can fall in and out of love in seconds without even talking to somebody, save myself all the bother. It happened to me twice yesterday. Once at a job, picking up my jeans that the lady had prepared, and she was pinning the hem of a lovely ball gown, a dark red velvet ball gown of a beautiful young girl standing on a plinth. So, you know, I was demure, as I tend to be, and I kind of glanced at her, she glanced down, I was embarrassed, and then she looks at me, and I look at her, and then she smiles, and I smile, and I think, well, I'm a bit older than I get over that little silly teenage 60-year-old complex, smile back at her, and I look at her, and I hear her talking, I hear her accent, and I think, I wouldn't even mind with that accent, that kind of country bumpkin accent, it would be fine, yeah, because she's beautiful and lovely, and it doesn't matter that I'm 800 years older and all the rest of it. And then I watched that going on quite quickly, and I think, yeah, well, really, is that really true? And then I smile at her again with a blessing, this time as my young sister, and I leave. I walk next door to the barber shop to have my short back and sides kept up to date, And I've not seen her in there before. Really gorgeous, beautiful young woman, cutting hair, lovely eyes. She looks at me, I look at her, she looks at me, I think, was she looking at me? Yeah, she's looking at me, you know, that stuff we do. And think, oh yeah, she's beautiful. And I had to wait a long time, Saturday afternoon. I'm looking at her and thinking, oh yeah, then we can live in a really nice house and do this. Watching my mum make the movie. And then I'm thinking, like, really, what, like, you're going to do that instead of carry on with doing what you're doing and change your whole life? This woman, you don't know who she is. Thinking, well, she's really lovely. I gave her a little blessing. In my mind, was quite relieved it wasn't her cutting my hair, so that I wouldn't have to continue that one, and let it subside. Now that you could, and I used to when I was younger, take much more extreme. You could play the story out, take the phone number, meet up, do the thing, get involved, and you blind yourself to stuff that you know is not compatible. Oh, well, that doesn't matter. I'm sure that'll be fine. I'll get over that. That's not that important anyway, or whatever. And after 6 weeks, when the hormones change, 3 months when they change, depends on the time of the year, your life, who you are, and whatever. And that feeling like the plug's just being pulled out from your perineum. It's like, oh no, I don't feel it anymore. I did think that. I do love her, really. Oh no, no, I don't, but I want to do it. Oh no, I don't. Once all that stuff starts happening, you're starting to see the things that really aren't working for you, that just aren't compatible with you. And in other words, the greatest drug there is, and it's the most beautiful drug, you get the come down. You will with any good drug, you always get the come down. It's just the way it is. And there's a lot to be gained and a lot to be learned from these come downs. This is how we grow. And heartbreak is probably the greatest catalyst for personal growth there ever is. But this idea that somebody can be pedestalized, can be, oh, the hero, the heroine, the amazing being. I've never met anyone like that. They're amazing, they're beautiful, is obviously fantasy. It cannot be like that. It just is not. People are people. They shit, they lie, they lose their temper, they get stupid, they get embarrassing. Everybody, there is, without exception, this is how it is. So the idea that we can make someone ideal is silly in the first place. And that's what we're aspiring to do, is to be able to maintain presence by being in the back consistently enough that the love that we are sharing with the other is real love, rather than love with all the plugins, as in desire, expectation, acquisitiveness, possessiveness, jealousy, insecurity, disappointment, anger, guilt, and I could go on. Are you with me so far? So the things that's really interesting about this romantic love, which we all grew up indoctrinated by, and bear that in mind, we have all been indoctrinated by this notion of romantic love from an age where we were so young, we wouldn't have known that there might have been an option. So we take it all, just like religion, just like everything else. And it's fairy tales, romantic novels, movies, TV programs, and so on that did that conditioning for us. And we haven't to gauge the veracity by. What we didn't know at that point was that the whole notion of romantic love didn't even exist until the troubadours of medieval France invented it. And that is the truth. Until that point, till about 1200 or so, there was no romantic love. It was a very pragmatic affair. You married your daughter off to the guy who was going to further the dynasty of your family the most, for example. Or you married somebody, or fell in love with it, whatever it was, with somebody, you partnered, you coupled with somebody who would be a good match for you, who would be a good child rearer, or who would provide food for your offspring, or who would protect you well, or grow the food properly, or hunt well for you, or whatever. The romantic love, this might be wrong, I don't know, I have checked it in quite some depth with many historians, and so far no one's contradicted it. This was invented by the troubadours, these minstrels who would go around in France, and they'd fall in love with, or they declare their love to, the lady of the manor, who, bear in mind, was married to the lord of the manor. And it was unrequited love. The troubadour, as far as the propaganda goes, or maybe it was a good cover-up, probably it happened. Sometimes they managed to score, but most of the time, the story was that they never actually had any carnal knowledge of the lady of the manor whatsoever. They'd spend their whole life writing, singing songs to her about the love and the purity of it and so on, and never actually consummate that. And in that state, romantic love can, you can imagine, thrive if you were an intense masochist, that is, of course. They neither would have had to have dealt with the mundane reality, for example, of taking the rubbish out, taking the kids to school, and so on. And you may well have attained enlightenment and be free of susceptibility to falling prey to the delusion But because it was programmed in at such a young and defenseless age, it went in so deep into your circuitry that it can still jerk your reflexes. Like I'm describing, happened to be yesterday, and it was not a big jerk, it was a little mild flutter. And I'm glad that it was as well. I enjoy that, it's fun. I also enjoyed coming back from there to the studio and carrying on working with music, which wouldn't have happened if I'd have got involved in the story. Where it comes from, this is what's interesting. The susceptibility, falling prey to delusion, to an imaginary reality, comes from not being in communication with your own Tao, with the presence within you. So you feel a lack of substance, a lack of succor, a lack of life force, intensity and excitement and thrill. And so you look externally to fill it. I can tell you from traveling around the world, working with people from every walk of life, everybody doesn't feel good enough. I don't know if that's good English or not. Nobody feels good enough. There might be some exceptions. But this lack of self-esteem seems to be innate to the human condition. Self-esteem means self-love, literally. And with that comes a sense of self-worth. And so we look for that love, that esteem, that validation externally. So imagine you meet somebody new, or you're with somebody wonderful, and they tell you you're amazing, and in their eyes you can see that you're amazing. Wow, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're fantastic, you're incredible, I love you. The need for that happens because there isn't that genuine love, self-esteem, self-worth, self-validation occurring because we've lost contact with the deep self, the bit that sits in the back. And that's why when you meet someone that you really dig, somebody like, wow, somebody beautiful, you'll find your mind almost immediately starting to worry about what they're going to think when they find out the truth about you, when they find out all your hidden bits that are behind the makeup and the fancy clothes and the buff body that you sorted out in the gym and everything else that you do to hide the fact that you are basically just a human being with faults, like all human beings have. That's why you have that fear, because you know it's false. You know it's false. You feel the lack of depth within. You're not connecting to the depths of yourself. So you see that depth of intensity, that, oh my God, life is beautiful, in relating with another. But all that happens is once those hormones reach the chemical, the hormones that cause the chemical attraction, once they settle, which all things do, you find yourself dealing with not just one unresolved human being, i.e. you, but two. So not just one packet of lack and deficiencies and lack of connection, but two. And that gets very, very complicated, as we all know. And so what starts out seeming like a meeting of gods and goddesses above and beyond the mundane plane shows itself to be yet another transactional dynamic to be negotiated as best as you can. As in, well, look, I took the rubbish out, you cooked the dinner, I washed the dishes, you paid, blah, blah, blah. And it might not be said it, but as in all human relationships, that is what occurs, transaction. And you think at the beginning, this isn't going to be that, this is beyond all that. This is going to transcend any mundane considerations. But as we all know, once the hormones shift, it doesn't. Nor is this to suggest in any way adopting a cynical view. To the contrary, be real, not cynical, be realistic, always. You can love another and allow them to love you without falling. You merely have to keep your wits about you and remember that it's all just a game. Because what's really happening is the Tao, that presence, loving itself through the two of you. That's when you get high, when the presence within you is loving the presence in the other. In other words, the presence is loving itself. And when you can both let that happen, bliss and rapture are likely beyond any notions of romance, which incidentally derives from roman novelle, the new style at the time of literature that came out of Rome, hence fiction and fantasy. When you're able to discern the difference between pure love, that is, the life force expressed through the heart, which is openness, between that and desire, with expectations and possessiveness, acquisitiveness, projection, mythification, all the rest of it, you're then free to remain buzzing on your rapport with your own Tao inside and with it in them as well. And only in this state can you truly love and be loved as you. rather than who you've been pretending to be. So this degree of self-possessiveness serves as a powerful aphrodisiac, which is sufficient to rekindle the dying embers of any dynamic, at least for a moment longer, and is also a powerful magnet for future prospective lovers. So you get me, whether you're in a relationship that needs rekindling or just needs to develop or you just want to keep it going, or you're not and you'd like to be, the key is to possess yourself, to own yourself, to be one with yourself. From there, you then love. And when I say self, I don't mean the constructed, externally referenced self that's in the front, because that's just a construct. That dies when the body does. I'm talking about the self that doesn't die, the bit in the back. When you can sit with that and keep the heart open, it's a magnet. For new lovers, it's a magnet for the one that you're with to connect with you at a deep level. And now we're going to do the meditation. This is the magic, really. Us all focusing together. My tempo will now naturally change. The cadence and timbre of my voice will change. I close my eyes when I do this. I've got no idea what's going on. And other than what's happening, I often don't remember anything I've said at the end of it all. Us all focusing together like this in our hundreds all the way around the world will exponentially multiply the effect of focusing our intention together, each of us present, so that what I would expect as a result will be a radical shift for the better in your love life. Within 7 days of doing this, could even start much earlier, you'll become more attractive, more magnetic, more confident in yourself. Others will feel that, whether you're with somebody, they'll feel it, or if you're not, there'll be people around who'll be drawn to you. And it will juice up your love life. That is the intention. With that intention, or your own version of it, firmly in mind, take a moment to shuffle about in your seat to attain optimum comfort in your body. Like, really take advantage of where you're sitting. Lean into it properly and let the weight of your body surrender to gravity, as it does want to do. So allow yourself to surrender to the incredibly powerful magnetic gravitational pull of the ground and feel heavy. To counter this heaviness, visualize a golf ball with bright white light spinning just above the crown of your head. And allow this light to draw your crown upwards, elongating your whole spine as it does this, just like charming a snake out of its basket. And notice that as the spine lengthens, the vision brightens, the mind brightens. Allow your shoulders to drop. Picture that you are an angel with huge, heavy wings capable of getting you airborne, one attached to each shoulder blade. And allow the weight of the wings to pull the shoulders down and broaden them. Allow your breastbone to slide upwards and forwards at the same time, just a little bit. The top of the chest sort of urging itself diagonally upwards away from your body, as it were. And this is a gesture, a subtle gesture, of rising up to all that is beautiful within you and in the world around you, and specifically in everyone, all the people around you, and even more specifically, everyone in our beautiful sacred circle here. Allow this to get enable your chest to relax more. Now it's nice and open. Picture a pair of sliding doors in breastbone opening to the sides to open the heart area. In that opening, so to speak, picture, if you want, a cluster of precious jewels bedecked with mythical flowers emitting a otherworldly fragrance so sweet you can't describe it, and a light, a rose gold, crimson, violet light, just gently, naturally radiating from the chest as it relaxes. Allow your eyelids to lower if you haven't done already. Leave a little slip at the bottom for the light to come in, because that just keeps your brain alive or awake. Become aware of your breathing and stop holding the breath and start to notice how the belly rises as the air comes in and the belly falls as the air leaves. rises on the in-breath, falls on the out-breath. And note, acknowledge that the breath is the elixir of life. It is not the sun, invisible inner nothingness. The air is chi, it's filled with life. So as you breathe in and you breathe out, appreciate the inestimable value of each breath, because each breath is life. That's the next moment of life. And the surrendering of the old breath it has to be done to allow the next moment to come. So just appreciate that exchange and become aware that there's a transition point. When the air is out of the lungs, at the end of the exhalation, there's this moment just before the air comes back in at the next breath. And when you filled your lungs up, there's that moment as it transits into the exhalation. And it's in those moments, they're not pauses, they're just moments in the passage of the breath. In those moments, be present. Be aware of being here, fully here. And allow all the muscles of the body to soften. Your face, around your eyes, your jaw, chin, cheekbones, temples, sides of the head, above the ears, the sides of your neck, the back of your head, the top of your head, the back of your neck, your throat. So the whole head part is softer. The shoulders, let them soften, broaden a bit more, drop a bit more. And down the arms, let the arms soften, forearms, the hands, the fingers. Down the sides of your body, from your armpits down to your hips, let all of that soften. And the shoulder blade area, between the shoulder blades, that's soften. And the middle back area, the kidneys are, let that soften. And the lower back area, let that soften. And the sacral area, let that soften. And the buttocks, let them soften. And the chest, let the chest soften. And the upper belly, and the lower belly, and down behind the pubic bone, and the pelvic floor muscles. Everything softens. And down the backs of your legs, the sides of your legs, the fronts of your legs, upper legs, lower legs, feet, toes, everything now softening. And not just the muscles and the sinews, but the tissue that the organs are made out of, and the blood vessels, and the fluids themselves, and the nerves, and the brain, and the bones, and the bone marrow, the joints, tendons, ligaments, every part of your physicality relaxed. Far more relaxed than it was before, and continuing to relax. Just give the command to the subconscious, continue this relaxation process, knowing that true strength derives from this softness, not rigidity. Now, become aware that there is the front part of you, which is everywhere forwards of where the seams, the side seams of your shirt, dress, or t-shirt are. And then there's the rear part of you, which is everywhere rear of the side seams. And be aware that the front part of you is where all the noise, the drama, the conundrum of being human occurs, or has occurred until now. And the back part of you is still and silent and strong and steady and sturdy and reliable and warm and quiet, gentle. And this is the place for the Queen or the King of the realm to sit in the throne room at the back of the palace, with your back firmly against the back of the throne, the weight of your body falling firmly through your sit bones into the seat of the throne. And the back of the throne is, of course, the front of your spine, front of your shoulder blades, front of your pelvic bones, the rear pelvic bones, the front of your sacrum at the back there. That's the back of the throne. And the rear of the skull is like the headrest. And so as the Queen or the King of the realm, you allow all your minions, the guards, to take care of all the business going on in the front, the noisy bit. You remain back, dignified, channeling the divine energy through your crown, the crown of your head, down onto the earth plane for the benefit of all your subjects. To reinforce the sensation, picture that the pores of your skin in the front of your body and your face, your throat, are available for breathing through. And breathe in through every pore of the skin in the front of you simultaneously. A wall of air
into the back of you. And let that bring you into your back. Then breathe out from the back of you, the same wall of air, through all the pores of the skin in the front. And let the forward motion of that breath thrust you further back in your seat, just like when you're taking off in a plane. So you're breathing in through the front, into the back, breathing out from the back, through the front, and letting both movements push you progressively further and further back inside. Now, the presence inside of you is not bound by the physical, so it doesn't have to observe the boundary of the skin of the back of the body. In fact, it's free to pop right out of the back of your body. And as you keep breathing and allow yourself to drift further and further back inside, notice that you are actually coming out through the back of you and expanding in size exponentially, getting bigger and bigger as you go further and further back in depth into yourself. So it becomes that the physical form is like the tiny tip of the iceberg, and the rest of you is the rest of the iceberg, but it's a lovely warm iceberg. And this is the presence, this is the Tao as it expresses itself through your funnel. And the heart open in the front there, the two sliding doors. Way out in the front of you there, you're way behind all of that. And you're watching it all from the back of the brain. To compound the feeling of which, picture that there's a little Buddha inside the front of your brain, where the noise is usually all going on, that's been sitting there in the midst of that debate with a headache for years and years and years, not get me out of it, get me out of it. And you're saying to the little Buddha who's got your face on it, hey, come sit in the back now. There's a place for you at the back. Ooh, says the Buddha, and it stands up and has a little look around and follows your back, and you think it's the back of the skull, which is a bit like the back of a cave. You're in a cave now. And you've laid out a wonderful pile of cushions for the Buddha to sit on. So the Buddha sits down at your behest, with its back leaning up against the rear wall of the cave, very comfortable on the cushions. And this is the rear wall of the skull. And the Buddha, with your face on, is now sitting in the back of the sacred cave there, in the skull, gazing out into infinity through the mouth of the cave, which is between the eyebrows, roughly. Not for any reason, just because infinity is the easiest place to look at. And all that noise you notice that usually goes on in the full brain about how well or badly you're doing and so on, and comparing yourself to other people and all the rest, it's stopped. It's silent. This is the big trick of meditation. No longer are you beholden to that noise. So you're sitting in the back, you're bearing witness now to the experience of being you from the back of you, and you've got your heart open, you're breathing, you're relaxing, the spine's lengthened, shoulders are dropped and broadened, all the muscles are soft, and the heart is open, and there's that radiance occurring. As you breathe in and you breathe out, now allow yourself to be breathing in and out through that heart center, that open area in the chest. And you'll notice as you breathe in and out, it elicits a pleasant stimulation feeling of the energy there. Now picture the energy as a rose gold, violet, crimson, beautiful, lush light radiating from your chest now, surrounding your own physical form, and you're watching all of this from behind, remember. All of it from behind. You're very big, huge, and you're watching the phenomenon of the human being radiating heart from its chest. You have compassion for your human being, and the light, this love, is radiating all the way around our circle here to 31 or whatever it is countries, all the way around the world, to each of us. So we're each being bathed in this light, and we're joining in this light to create together a big sphere of this beautiful love, which is love without sentiment, without any add-ons. It's just the pure heart energy of us all. And it's radiating from our circle outwards, as it were, to everybody each of us knows, and to everybody each of them know, and so on, until it's enveloping everybody alive on this planet right now. And that includes, some might have died, I don't know, but people that you've loved, people you've had love affairs or relationships with, that you might have hated ever since even, people that you're with now, people that are still to come, who would be, I presume, on the planet right now, otherwise they'd be tiny babies, if they're not yet, you know. So everybody, really, that could possibly ever be in your love orbit, and everyone who ever has been, is included also in this radiance right now, not in an imaginary way, not in a way that they would know consciously, perhaps, but in a way that is healing to the presence within them, the true self within them. Remember, from the back of you, you're observing this. There's no trying about it. It's not about being nice. It's not about being kind or loving. Well, it is about being loving, but it's not about being a saint or anything like that. It's just purely the presence in you, inviting your human love to radiate and envelop everybody without exception. Now, we have our sphere of love between us here, which is exponentially more powerful than it would be if it was just each of us on our own. And to take advantage of this now, to place in the sphere specifically the person that you're with now, the relationship with whom you would like to heal or leave in a good way, or actually start, because it might be somebody that you know that you haven't actually taken up with intimately yet. And of course, what this is going to entail is purely by their free will, and not by any psychic coercion of any sort whatsoever. There's also people, if you're not in a relationship, if you are, there are possibly or probably people who are still to come into your orbit. You don't even know who they are. You don't know their identity. But you know that they have a presence, and so they are also in the sphere. If you like, you can focus it in on the next person who's going to be who you share your intimacy with, and place them, the presence of them in the sphere. Now they are being bathed, they're really privileged because they're being bathed in the healing love energy of all of us right now. There's nothing personal in it, it's purely transpersonal, so there won't be any mix-ups. It's not going to be like somebody's going to get hooked up with somebody, somebody else they shouldn't do because we're doing it together. It's not personal, it's transpersonal. Now, your person that you have in front of you now, whether there's the one you're with at the moment in your life or somebody who's to come, let your heart remain open, stay in the back of you, and although you can't necessarily see their face or their identity, connect with the presence in the back of them. Some people describe it as the higher self. I would call it higher, deeper, bigger self, but the presence, the background presence. And you're connecting. And there's a sense of an agreement being made, of you saying, won't be in words necessarily, I welcome you into my love, and I vow to treat you honourably from the depths of myself, clearly and genuinely, and to be aware of when I am acting out from the defense level of self in the front, and thereby relinquish that mode as quickly as possible each time, and will naturally expect you to do similarly. And the reason I do this is because the presence in me is wanting to connect with the presence in you. And as we both serve the presence in this way, we can experience all the rapture and bliss possible together. That's in our destiny to do. This you can apply to somebody that you're with, of course. So you're talking to the presence of the person, and you're making the same vow. I connect with you because the presence in me wants to connect with the presence in you. I vow to be aware of when I'm acting out from the front self. I expect you to do the same, so that our presences are able to merge, and in that we find rapture and joy and nourishment and nurturing and all the things we came together for in the first place, but for real. And no, you can see as you sit in your back that there isn't a need for it. There is no need for this to be, because you have everything right now. There is no lack. You have all the love, all the support, all the validation you need forever right inside of you now, in your own back. Your own presence is doing for you. The Tao is saying to you, I love you. You are beautiful. You're gorgeous. You're amazing. I love you. I love you. I love you. And you can feel it. And so the other is merely coming along to mirror that dynamic that you have going on with your own Tao. No need anymore. You are now liberated and therefore free to enjoy true, deep relating, whether it's for a day, a week, a lifetime, with whomever you have in your love orbit or you have still to come. And before coming out of the meditation state, just let your mind focus on an intention from the back of you that you will remain connected to this presence within you, in your back, whence you derive all the love, all the support, all the succor, all the validation, all the approval, all the acceptance, all the forgiveness, all the joy that you need. Have that intention really clear, because it's from that space that you can truly share yourself with someone else. And in your own time, this is the time to wriggle your fingers, wriggle your toes, wriggle your ears, and wriggle your nose, flutter your eyelids, and bring yourself back, or rather forwards, but not too far forwards, into the so-called everyday waking state. And Sue can tell us about how to ask questions. Bear with me, we have got on a whole hour already, but I'm sorry about putting in questions and answers. But if you have time, I really recommend staying on it, because these are fascinating, generally. And if you don't have time and you have to go, it's been an utter pleasure hosting you, and may you derive more benefit from this than you can possibly imagine. I hope to see you again soon, with all my love to you. But if you can stay, stay. And here's Sue the Crew.
Hello.
To tell you what to do.
Hello. Very warm welcome to everybody who is at the satsang for the first time. I know we've got a lot of people who've joined us this week, both for the Great Presence training and also for super healing. So it's fantastic to have you meditating here with us today. We have had a huge amount of questions pre-submitted. So I am going to bounce between those and any that I see on the screen, and we'll try to answer as many as possible tonight. So if you do have a burning question, and we are going to take the questions about love first, please do type it into the question box, and I will then see it and be able to read it out to Doc on your behalf. So I'm going to start with this one from Zana in the UK. And Stephen, Zana says, how can we stop over-analysing love and just let it flow? I sabotage through lack of trust and too much thinking.
Well, Zana, it's a lovely question there. You'll find that when you sit in your back, the analysing stops. You watch the mind analysing and you stop taking any notice of it. Although, I would say, the reason that you were analysing would be because you instinctively knew that this situation, whichever it was, wasn't really compatible with you. And that's why the mind was racing, because you'll find that when a situation is compatible for however long it is, the mind doesn't bother analysing, it doesn't need to. It's only analysing when it's not feeling the thing's right. If it's right, you won't be, it's not sabotage, in other words, it's just that it wasn't really right. And I would trust yourself on that one. But like I say, the more you sit in the back, the less you take notice of all that stuff going on in the head, and you communicate authentically, so the other communicates authentically, or you're not going to bother with them. That's how it works. You would not spend time with anybody that you were not having a clear communicational dynamic with when you sit in your back. You just can't be bothered. It's pointless. So you stop. I think you'll find. Good question.
Catherine in France says, is hate part of love as yin is part of yang and vice versa, or is it just the expression of fear?
Catherine, that's a lovely question. No, love has no opposite. Love is not part of the yin-yang dynamic, because love is the Tao expressing itself through your body, through your heart area. It's not a thing with preferences. So love doesn't have an opposite. Love is just Tao. Tao doesn't have an opposite of non-Tao. It just is. That's the generative, causative spark of existence. What hatred is the opposite of approval, isn't it? The opposite of acceptance. It's the extreme opposite of finding someone agreeable. And it is. There's a lot. There will be fear in it. I mean, you could spend all day analysing what hatred is. But it's certainly an extreme and violent feeling that comes from being deluded and caught in the front self, where we believe that the drama is real, where we believe that the other's action, the other and how they're acting out, is actually ultimately real, rather than seeing to the presence behind them. when we can actually see to the presence of someone, it doesn't mean that we then approve of the stuff that we found unacceptable. But it means that we no longer seek to change them or punish them, or because hatred is a punishment, the other really, isn't it? You want to punish them. We no longer have that. We just let them go, let them be, let them go. Because surely you don't want to spend your time with someone you hate, do you? This would be. But it's again, it's a description, hatred. It's a description of a very intense dislike, essentially. But it's not the opposite of love. No, I think you'll find from experience, I find, the more you sit in your back, the more you learn to be the big presence within you, the less you'll find you'll succumb to such intense reactions to external stimuli, because there's no point. I mean, it seems, no, I don't need to ruin my moment by indulging that feeling. Or you acknowledge it and you get through it really quick, rather than sitting with it festering. Good question.
I'm asking this question next because I think it's quite linked to that, Stephen, and it's about numb coldness rather than hate. Sharon in the UK says, how can we feel such love for someone and as time goes on it manifests into a numb coldness? After 30 years I'm getting divorced.
Well, congratulations, Sharon. The numb coldness is one expression of passive aggressivity. It's of unexpressed anger. It comes from unnegotiated power struggles. In other words, issues that haven't been resolved with the two of you, that you've learned to bury and live with, so to speak, which eventually are going to resurface and become too much to live with, and so divorce will occur at some point. God, you know what? My brain just completely oh yeah, because you were talking about numb cold, so I was going to say my brain just went numb. The numb coldness is actually an anger that it just is not being expressed. There's no point expressing it anymore. So what do? You go numb on it because it's too painful. It's so painful being in a situation with somebody where that true dynamic isn't going on, where there isn't real relating occurring, where you're there just because you're afraid to be alone, or goodness knows what else. It's so lonely, so alienated, and such a horrible, horrible, horrible feeling. It's so painful for the soul that the only way to deal with it is to go numb. It's like taking sedatives or whatever to cope with it. But your liberation will be magnificent by contrast, and well worth all the pain you've been through for both of you. And when you're out of it and through the other side of all the transition, the magnificence that you will feel, and you will make you realise why you had to go through the constriction to get there.
Okay, we've got another couple of people with a similar question. Barbara in the USA and Marja in Slovenia. So I'll start with Barbara, who says, what's the easiest way to truly love yourself and feel that way no matter what? And Marja says, how to love and respect myself each moment without money and my own space for living.
Yeah, it's funny that, because I've just produced, or we've just filmed a training on loving yourself, self-esteem, self-worth, confidence, and so on. So it's very, very fresh in my mind, and I could just reel off the whole 6 hours worth of stuff to you, but I'm not going to. But let me think of the crucial thing. I think could we just keep it in context of what's been going on today? If we learn to sit in the back and keep the heart open, there's the sense that the big presence that you are, which I think you probably felt. As you sit back, you become big, much bigger than what the body can hold. That is what loves you. And you could picture the presence putting its arms around you from behind and just saying in your ear, I love you. I love you. I really, really love you. You're beautiful. And one of the things I talk about in the training, when you get into the habit of talking out loud to yourself once a week or whatever for 5 minutes or so, in a kindly voice, and only saying kind, beautiful, positive things to yourself. For example, wow, that was really good what you just did. You just cleaned up the whole house and you did all that work and you were not even going to acknowledge it. You're so amazing. What a beautiful, beautiful woman you are. And you do it in the second person like that. What a kind, beautiful, loving, sexy, magnificent woman you are. You really are. And as you're starting to argue with yourself, you go, no. You listen to me. You really are. And you do this for 3, 4, 5 minutes out loud, once a week, say. And within a very short time, you'll notice that is the voice in their head that is predominant. And all of this stuff, loving yourself, not loving yourself, and all the rest of it, is really all about what we're talking to ourselves about internally. So if that's not the voice, it will be the voice that goes, oh, you're an idiot, you're rubbish, no, you're no good, oh, you're messing it all up. And that's not loving yourself. That talking to ourselves is not going to produce love. Whereas the one that's going, hey, you're beautiful, you're really wonderful, it's all right where you're doing this, fine. That one, that's love. And then that becomes the loving voice, and then you find yourself loving yourself a lot more. That's a good, simple technique, but very quick one there.
Catherine says, I left my boyfriend when I understood I didn't love him as much as he was loving me. He accepted that we stay friends, but I can see that I make him suffer. Do I have to go on that way or leave him definitely?
Well, look, firstly, you don't make him suffer. Suffering is something we each elect to do ourselves. The suffering is really how much we're resisting what is going on, including the actual pain of loss. If we can roll with it and love it, even the painful part of it, it's no longer suffering, and we come through it much faster. So you're not responsible for his experience. As for whether you must kind of like cut contact with him, you know already the answer to that. I obviously can't tell you. When you sit in your bag and you be the big presence, talk to his big presence, like in your mentally, tune into his big presence, and explain how you feel to him, and you'll ask his big presence what to do. And his big presence will actually tell you quite clearly. I'd imagine it would be, leave me alone for a few months and let me actually get through the cold turkey of you, because he's evidently addicted to you. And then we're friends, naturally. Maybe trying to be friends without breaking the flow consistently without that is very difficult, usually. But it's not, I'm not telling you shouldn't be, but it's hard. Because the one who is wanting more, needing more, needs to get off the addiction before there can be true friendship. Otherwise, the friendship will just be an excuse for him trying to keep taking a pop at you and get back with you, as you know. And that is the difficulty. But it's not about making a decision and sticking to it in a cold way. It's about following your energy once you've got the intention. So the intention is that he will be liberated from me, from this situation, graciously and feeling wonderful about himself. And that I will also, of course, be liberated from this, feeling wonderful and magnificent, and for life to be grand for both of us. Or something like that. That's the intention. And then you just follow your chi, you follow where your belly wants to take you. So if it's to pick up the phone when he calls, you pick it up. If it's to not pick it up, you don't. But you don't do things to be like polite. You just follow your energy. Kind, of course, but not being like a people pleaser. So you do what you feel like, and if you want to see him, you see him. And if at a certain point you think, oh no, the belly goes, oh, look, get out of here, you get out of there. Even if you're right in the middle of making love, it doesn't matter. You must follow the energy, and then that will sort it all out for you. It might seem a little messy, but then it's messy anyway, isn't it? Life is messy. But it's generally the least messy way to go, I found.
Elsa in South Africa says, why is it sometimes so hard to show or feel love?
Hi, Elsa. Well, I think it's because we all have been hurt many times as children, tiny children, being bullied by adults or looked at askance by something we really did not see that moment, or we're overlooked in the school playground when everybody's playing and we're left out, or a friend suddenly betraying you by running off with another friend and leaving you on your own, or whatever it is. It seems like, so what? They're just little things, and kids get over it. But they do. Kids pick themselves up and carry on. They don't even realise it's happened after 5 minutes, but most of the time. But it doesn't mean it didn't happen, and it goes in very, very deep. But tiny little sensitive things when we're young, and it really, really hurts. And so it causes the heart to close over bit by bit by bit, more and more and more and more, until we've got some kind of armour that makes us feel like, all right, I can deal with it now. I can go into the world and not just get floored by every single person not acting like an angel around me. And unfortunately, that means that we then find it harder to let the love flow. But what I think you're talking about might be front-based love, as I call it. When you're in the back, you can open your heart and be totally loving, i.e. let your heart energy completely envelop and embrace the other. That doesn't mean you have to act in a certain way or do certain things or anything like that. It just means you're able to embrace the other in your pure love, and you don't need to express it any more than that. The other feels it. I need to know more details to be able to answer your question specifically, but that's generally the gist of it. be in the big presence, keep the heart open, and then there's no problem expressing anything. It just happens naturally of itself.
Sutanu, sorry, in India says, what should be the expectations from your partner around having a satisfying love life?
Well, Sitanu, I think that any expectation is got nothing much to do with love. Love is the pure thing. Expectation is what personality sticks on it according to what we've grown up believing it needs to be like in a relationship. And it might well be, and there are no rules. Do you understand? Every culture has a different sort of setup. In the Trobriand Islanders, I think it was there that the woman would have two husbands, for example. One they do in a row, so 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. So one would be out hunting, and the other would be looking after her, and then they'd swap over. There would be no jealousy of any kind. Then there's another somewhere around there where all the women in a big hut together, and all the guys live in a big hut together, and their whole situation is totally different than it would be if it was all nuclear family style. I mean, I'm just mentioning those as an example, that there are just many different cultural setups, and the one that most of the world shares is that two people get together and are obliged to satisfy all the needs of the other, which, as we know, is absolutely impossible. And it might well be that one of the partners doesn't want to have sex with the other while the other one does, and maybe that has to allow the other to have sex with other people but still maintain the connection in the home or whatever it is. I wouldn't know. But I don't believe that there is obligation of any of us to have sex with anybody unless we want to. But end of story. That's it. And if that isn't going to work for the other person, then obviously the two of you are required to go your own ways. But it wouldn't be a rule that just because there's no sex you have to. You can try it in every which way you want. Most relationships after a period of time don't have any sex. People pretend to say they do, but I know from all the people I've spoken to, most people don't. I mean, I would say marriage is probably the biggest anti-aphrodisiac there is. It's just familiarity breeds content. Cozy is not sexy. It's very difficult to have the two. If you taking the rubbish out isn't the same as, hey, you look really hot. Those two don't go together. Desire doesn't generally go with duty, in other words. So you must keep an open mind and an open heart and get your intention very clear about what you need for yourself in your life. This doesn't mean about whether you're with them or not with them. It's just, for example, my intention is that my life is beautiful and free, and that my heart is happy, and that I'm satisfied and delighted with the way my intimate life goes on. And then leave it at that. If that's your intention, and then you follow your energy, that will manifest, whether it's the partner leaving, the partner staying, whatever it is, it will work itself out. As long as you stay in the back and allow it to happen, invite it to happen, rather than be in the front and try and force it to happen, which is what most people are doing most of the time, hence all the noise in the mess in the world.
Lisa in the UK is asking how to get her trust in life back. She says that a year after leaving an abusive partner, she feels her heart is still closed off and she's lost her trust in life.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, being subject to abusive behaviour over a period of time will definitely destroy, but damage the confidence, of course. And confidence means trusting yourself. Confidere, I hold the faith with myself. By going into the back of you regularly, the trust will naturally develop, because this is the true you, the true presence. And by being that, it's quite clear that there isn't even an issue of trust. It's innate to just your very being. Learning to trust yourself first, to be integrated, as it were, and congruent with the flow of life, is all you have to do. As far as others are concerned, all you can do ever is trust them to be human. And that means the whole range of human behaviour, to have no expectations beyond that. Can only trust others to be human. The only reliable thing that you can trust is your own presence, your own Tao, and that's in the back of you. That remains constant and never lets you down. Anyone or anything external will have the yin and the yang, so they'll give you and they'll take away. That's how it works. But your presence cannot take away anything. All it does is give. That's the key.
We have another Catherine here asking for any advice on how to begin conversations about conscious loving with a partner you've been with for a while and with whom until now those conversations haven't been necessary, but now they are if we're to continue to grow together.
That is a very, very poignant question, Catherine. Thank you. To be honest, I don't know because I've never managed that transition. It's always been that's it at that point. And the way it is the conscious loving, as in like Taoist sect or Tantra or whatever it is, as in, yeah, remaining, being in the big presence, making love with the other. I think the other has to be introduced to that concept first, aside from the rather potentially fraught arena of sex. To be, if you could take on the idea of being in the back and being the big presence in the back, and somehow convey that in a way that will bypass your partner's resistance, so that they could actually feel that. Once that's occurring, if that were achievable, then it could be related to the sexual arena, and without actually much being said, could elicit a whole new phase of love life. On the other hand, without even talking about it or talking about the presence, if you are in your presence and you put your hand on your partner's chest, for example, you sitting up, them lying on their back, and the intention of your hand was to press in energetically into the presence in the back of them, they'll feel it. They will feel it. So if you can remain in that conscious state and touch the other will naturally be in that state with you. But as I say, I've never managed it when it came to having to have conversations, because my hunch is that once look, it has to be this, or this thing's not going to work, it's because you actually want to get out of there. You're just being kind and think, well, look, I'll give them a chance, and if they're going to try this thing out with me, this could make it work. Whether it would or not, I don't know. I've never experienced it doing that. For my experience is, once I get to the point where, like, okay, look, let's try this thing because that could make our thing work. And if you don't, I think it's not going to work. It's really, I just say, I want to be out of this thing now. Sorry, bye. But that's just me. You'll know for yourself. But it's the presence. Be in the presence. Touch your partner from the presence into the presence of them, and then watch what happens. You can always get in touch and let me know, and we could, take it further if you wanted.
Stephen, we're 25 minutes past the hour, so how many more questions would you like to take?
1.5, please.
Right, okay. Let's go with this one from Nard then. I get a feeling a lot of women are on the path of loving and opening and spreading love. How do you, or can we, get men involved?
I think when we can stop making generalizations, we'll get on better with it all, because it's not that there are a lot of women that are loving, making, spreading love, and men not. It's just there are a lot of people spreading love and a lot of people not. And I'm sure if we counted them up, it would probably be pretty 50-50. And it's not really about a matter of getting men to love more. It's really not. When we look at it like that, it's just not going to happen. It's going to create anxiety. It's just about spreading the love to everybody, and then everybody will get it. When we stop seeing each other as different, when we assume that we're actually the same ecospheres, we've got fears, we've got hopes, we've got insecurities, we've got strengths, we've got weaknesses, and so on. We're all facing death, we all shit, we all piss, we've all got this stuff we do. These ecospheres, we all want to look good, we all want to be fit, we want to be healthy. Everybody has that. Of course, everybody expresses it differently, according to their body build, their age, who they are, where they come from, whether they're a man, whether they're a woman. And obviously there are big differences biologically between men and women, and there are big differences biologically between men and men and women. Everybody's different. So if we can look at it on that basis, I think then we start to find the magic key, that I see the woman in me, I see the man in you. We meet like that, then we really share. And I am a staunch feminist and have been since I was a boy, so that's where I'm coming from. I've always wanted women to have equality with men. I found it abhorrent that it wasn't that from tiny onwards. And I feel that the greatest key to achieving this is to stop seeing each other as different and generalizing men, women. It doesn't help. We're all different. Everybody's different. See it as yin and yang. You get a lot of women who are very yang and a lot of men who are very yin. And they will act like what we thought of as guys or women, but actually it's just yin and yang. So that's what I would suggest. Spread the love is just us spreading our love. everybody like we just done, and it's things like we just did. That's how we'll do it, and not to stereotype. Stop seeing guys as being unloving, whatever it is you're seeing. Start to see the softness in them, and that's what you'll start getting. Aye.
So if we're having half a question, how about we have a comment? And
Yeah.
were Ross still in Korea, we would have had 42 countries represented tonight, but he's actually back in the good old US of A. And he says, so Rumi was right when he said, get out of your head, that's where the devil is. Abide always in your heart.
Bless you, dear Ross. How lovely to have you on this call. How lovely that you're around. I'm glad you're back in America, no longer in Seoul. Not that I don't like Seoul, it's a great place, but I find it ironically slightly Seoul-less. And it's nice that I feel much happier that you're in America. And yeah, it's got to be. A Chinese friend of mine recently said that the difference between you white devils and us is that you see the world through your eyes, we see the world through our heart. And that is the key. But it's the key when you're sitting in the back of you. Sit in the back and you see the world through the heart, whether it's a lover, whether it's an object, whether it's this, whether it's that. And you can truly love it then, rather than get all confused with desire and expectation and all the rest of it. And this is what I wish you. I wish you an unparalleled, exponential expansion of your heart energy from this very moment, so that you feel love so strongly all the time, loving being alive, loving everything that you're doing, no longer criticizing or punishing yourself or others, being kind to yourself and therefore to others, and therefore others being kind to you. And as a result, a most amazing run of beautiful opportunities and moments of serendipity be yours. The Barefoot has spoken. It's been an utter pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for being here. Bless you, bless you, bless you. May the magic happen, and we will see each other soon. Toodle pip.